There's a lot of debate about whether working your way up in a production company or actually going out and making your own feature is the best path. And I would have to say, after having interviewed hundreds of directors to put the real truth, everything you didn't know you need to know about making an independent film together, that actually going for it and making a short or making a feature is really the way to go. A lot of people become mired in their jobs in production, where the hours are so intense and the commitment is so significant that they're unable to actually go home exhausted and work on their own projects. One of the directors I spoke to, Chris Eyre, who was the director of the film Smoke Signals, which was acquired by Miramax from Sundance, talked about how he used to work in a tuna cannery in Alaska. After 18-hour days of cutting fish, he would come home and try to write one page of his screenplay, and it was almost impossible. And it took him years of all sorts of grueling jobs in and around Alaska to find the time to finish a script. Filmmakers who are asking themselves whether they're better served to work in production, there are pros and cons. The pros are that you'll be part of a filmmaking community and you'll have access to equipment and to people who can help you make your film. The cons are that working in production may be so intense and the hours may be so grueling that you may not have the energy or the time or the interest may fall away to actually go ahead and shoot another film in what little spare time you have left. The sophistication of user-generated content is actually going through the roof. So I think we've passed the era of watching funny cat videos and dogs, walking through a plate glass window or something like that. And we're getting into a new era of storytelling where the stuff that's on YouTube is really, really interesting and compelling and new and novel and fresh. And I think that it's just the right time for people who have good stories to tell to jump on that wave and to be ready for sort of the second 2.0 era of independent film that in many ways will mirror the Web 2.0 era that followed the dot-com bubble. Good storytelling will always win out over flash and razzle-dazzle and equipment. It really doesn't always. You don't have to shoot with the best equipment available if you have a great script. And that's one of the areas that independent filmmakers really let themselves down. They don't do one more draft of the script. They're so concerned about the composition or the gear they're going to use or assembling the financing that they don't get their scripts in the best possible shape they can be in. And so going back or having your writer go back and do one more draft is really, really important because it is storytelling that wins out at the end of the day. It is characterization that people want to see and experience in an independent film, and that's really what's going to get them ahead of the pack. It's not going to be the fact that they shot with the best newfangled gear available. Well, independent filmmakers really need to be open to any media there is to getting their stories told and to get their talent in front of people. It shouldn't just be limited to independent films. It shouldn't just be limited to TV or to the internet. Any screen or window or anywhere people can watch filmed entertainment is really what they should go for. Whether they have a passion for TV or a passion for movies or for shorts, however they're best suited to telling their story is what they should go for. But the thing is, they shouldn't look askance at any one media. A lot of times, independent filmmakers of old used to say, oh, I don't do TV, I'm a filmmaker. In many cases, independent filmmakers have really made a living shooting TV. Miguel Arteta and Quentin Tarantino are two names that come to mind who have shot several episodic TV series. And Chris Eyre, who directed Smoke Signals, went on to have a terrific career directing episodes of Law & Order. So TV is really not outside the provenance of independent filmmakers, and aspiring independent filmmakers need to think rationally about how they're going to make a living as a creative artist, and including other venues other than the festival circuit in that process. Filmmakers with talent, drive, and perseverance can live anywhere these days. They don't need to live in New York or Los Angeles to make it. All the resources are available. You can have all the gear sent to you from bnh.com, and every city has aspiring actors who were wildly talented, but who just really never found the time or the circumstance to move to LA or New York to make it, either in Hollywood or on Broadway. So it's just a question of holding casting calls, finding these people, shaking the trees for new talent, and discovering perhaps the next Napoleon Dynamite in whatever city you happen to be living in. In The Real Truth, director Alexander Payne talks about how realizing your vision and making an independent film can often take years. It can take 5 years, it can take 10 years in some cases. And so filmmakers should not assume that it's instant coffee and that just because they want to get their film made that they can actually get it made within a short interval of even 1 or 2 years. One of the most inspirational stories in The Real Truth is the story of Darren Aronofsky, director of The Wrestler, Requiem for a Dream, and Pi. He was living in Los Angeles. He had just graduated from AFI. He was lonely. He didn't have a job, and he couldn't get anyone to read his screenplays. And he was sitting night after night eating these pasta dinners and dreaming of a day when he could direct a film. He wasn't going after $10,000. He wasn't going after $100,000. In fact, the money he raised for Pi was literally in $100 increments, and that kept him going long enough to finally cobble together the $60,000 to make his first film.